Good morning, everyone. Ashley here with Tolton Art. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to go through a commission that I have, and I'm really excited about this one, especially because it's in black and white. And it gives us a really cool opportunity to practice something that we call value studies. Most of the paintings you see on this channel are done in color, and when you add multiple colors, it just kind of increases the difficulty level of being able to identify values. Whereas when it's black and white, it's so simple. There's no additional colors that can kind of alter our perception of things, just black and white, and it's pretty straightforward. So let's hop right in. So to no one's surprise, it is an equestrian painting, and yeah, I'm really excited for this one. It's a beautiful shot taken by Sharon Schwing. We're gonna approach this the same way as we would a value study. I'm gonna put obviously a good amount of effort into this one because it is a commission, but nevertheless, we'll treat it as a value study and kind of talk through some of the decisions I make and why we do certain things. So let's get everything set up. I don't think, if you want, feel free to grab your own reference and then you can kind of do this along with me. I can't give you the reference image that I'm using because it's a commission, but you can still go through the same process that I am. Okay, perfect. Whenever I first start a painting too, one of the first things I do is I actually just sit with it for a second. So I look at my reference image, I look at what I have drawn up, and just kind of get a game plan of what I want it to look like and how I want things to kind of come to life. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get to mixing. So one of the first things, I always, in all of my paintings, I pretty dependably like to start with my darks and then go lighter. Sometimes I jump around a little bit, but generally I like to get at least some of my darks laid in. Now, because this is black and white, it's really easy for us to see what's dark and what's light. The reason I'm going into kind of more detail on this, it may sound really obvious, but this is really, really dark in the reference. Like basically black. It's gonna be, and like same here, that's gonna be our darkest value. However, I may not actually go all the way dark from the very beginning. I'm actually going to add just ever so slightly a little bit of titanium white so that I always have pure black left, and I'm just gonna protect that value a little bit, but it's still gonna look really dark. It's gonna read very dark, but I know it's not pure black. It's just shy of it. If you're curious what I'm painting on, it is a Strathmore 400 series linen oil paper, size 9 by 12. Paints I'm using are Ivory Black and Titanium White by, what do I have it by? Old Holland Classic, which I love. The other thing I really like to do at the beginning is just kind of mass in some big shapes, which they recommend that you do anyways, but my reasoning behind it is because I don't always do a warm-up before I come in to the art studio, so I'm coming in a little bit cold, and that can be really difficult and can oftentimes kind of lead to more mistakes. But I've found the best way for me to overcome that is by choosing something that's really kind of big. I don't know, it's not detail work. It's, you know, a big brush covering a lot of surface area. I just kind of like get my hand-eye coordination warmed up. It gives me time to settle in, and Something that I'm working on in some of my artwork is actually to be less tight in how I paint. And I've noticed that part of that comes from these edges. And so, because this is a commission and accuracy and likeness is very important, I don't want these edges to look so tight that they end up looking kind of pasted on and comic-y. But I do also need them to retain their likeness. I try to stay pretty tight and accurate when doing the background into the subject. But when I then go into the subject, I tend to blend that back into the background. For those of you watching, do you like black and white more, or do you like color? I would bet most people like color more, which I don't blame them. I do have to say, I actually think black and white, it always has been. I've always been so drawn to black and white because I think when you take kind of the color out of things, there's less to rely on and fall back on, so it has to be a really captivating subject matter with like good lighting. It really speaks to the talent of the person taking the photo or the painting. I just kind of start unpacking the painting as we go along. I just kind of see areas that feel like a good place to work next. One thing that I am doing is keeping my values a little bit on the low side. Even if some areas here might be a lighter value, it's really easy to add that in later and go lighter. It's easy to go dark again too, but I kind of err, and I'm working on this even more so, erring on the subtle side first, my first pass, and then, you know, going back and adding darker darks. I also don't really mind if it's not all uniformly one value, if there's like different little bits of paint in my brush, I'm okay with that. I think it adds a little bit of playfulness and dynamic variety if there's little just specks of differences, imperfections. Actually, nope. I got tunnel vision, and that is way too dark. Fun fact, I'm actually ambidextrous. So I can do both hands, though I don't use my left as much anymore. So it's kind of gotten a little bit worse, but I used to be really good at it. I really like to protect that black, because like here, I can push that back even further. In here, I just like it because I can protect that black and just add more depth. So it's not just like a flat black back there. There's actual slight changes. Whether or not you can see it on camera, I don't know, but making sure that I'm softening edges back there. I'm trying not to go back and forth and be too indecisive with things, but sometimes it is just a little bit inevitable. The other thing I need to be mindful of is that I'm sitting far enough back from everything that I don't get bogged down. Just like I do with color, Putting in just like main blocks of things that I see, and we'll blend. The biggest thing with value studies is really paying attention to the relations between the values. It's not just a matter of, well, it's identifying what's lighter and what's darker, but also by how much is it lighter or darker. I could just tell that I was starting to get a little bit bogged down by things, and if that ever happens, take a step back, think of it on a big scale, look at everything as big shapes again. Much better. Okay, so just kind of tackling the darks first versus area by area definitely helped me loosen up a little bit and just kind of free up and start thinking of the piece as a whole. And I think this will help me just read everything so that the relationship between everything is just gonna make more sense versus me just like kind of guessing. I was definitely just getting too fussy over in this area. Looking for any opportunity to add gradients. So like this is a little bit darker underneath where she's sitting. Just trying to tackle things that are of a similar value, kind of just all together.